Guess what time it is, guys? Showtime.
Like, share.
Subscribe.
Hi dude, Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. This is my son Timmy's job. You can see how the lumber's set up, and also we're going to show a little clip in here after the pour of stripping and the nightmare that turned into, the loss of lumber. You know how expensive lumber is right now. Right now he's oiling it up. Concrete's on the way here. Now he's putting a little oil on the forms. He's got some rebar in there. He's got about 4 inches of road base compacted. He's got 3/8 inch rebar. And he's going to go with a 3000 PSI pea gravel mix. Here's a little floating step design here. Concrete truck is arriving. Stable pumping is on site. Right now they're using a 3000 PSI. They've got steel reinforcement, 2-foot centers. Each one of these squares are about 8 by 8. They're all free floating. So, I mean, you really don't need much reinforcement when you have independently floating squares of concrete at this size, because they'll just kind of shift around and move as needed with vehicle traffic or whatever. On larger areas, they tend to want to crack, but when you have something like this, they just move independently and avoid cracking. It's kind of how pavers work. They're very small, so they just shift around and move around, and then they don't crack. This is kind of that concept. Here's the front porch area. Looks like they had a little extra rebar that they just kind of threw in there. Once all that form lumber comes out, there's going to be some black cobblestone that fill up the gaps. These particular jobs, it seems like, oh, this is a pretty easy job because you have all these fixed elevations just to pull your screeds off of. There's not a lot of guesswork in laying it down, but in reality it actually makes it harder because now you have all these different elevations that are established that you have to maintain throughout the whole process of finishing the concrete. In other words, you have to keep watching your concrete doesn't sink or rise on your forms, because the transition from section to section could be so much that it could be visible when this is all said and done. So you have to keep, putting concrete back, removing concrete, whatever it takes to keep them at the right elevation. So you need a lot of guys, in other words, to catch all these edges. The sections on the walkway are about 4 feet by 6 feet. So one thing I guess you could take from this particular process is that you don't want to put your forms that close together, because it's hard to get the concrete out. There's no space. You can't even get a finger in there. At least my finger wouldn't fit in there. Yes, some people's would though. Now if you watch carefully, you can see the concrete when they're rotting it off and working the concrete. A lot of it's falling in between the wood, and right away you know that those forms are going to come out. They're not going to come out, when that happens. This area right here is a little retaining wall, kind of slash footing for the new 3-foot. It's going to have a 3-foot high redwood fencing on it. So some stirrups are going to get wet set in here about every 6 feet. And then we're going to go redwood 4x4s up 3 feet. And then redwood 1x6s horizontally will go on top of that. Here's the 4-foot wide wood bowl float. You can see a little bit of the splatter on the garage door. I think I seen some, but It's a good idea to have that open on pour day. It's another interesting, but there's sometimes you can't get them open, so you have to put plastic, or you have a good pressure washer like I do, and you just blast it off when you come to strip. I'm thinking for those gaps like that is, with the wood stakes in between those 2x4s, what if you sandwiched a piece of expansion foam in there instead of the stake? That way you'd have that play, plus the concrete wouldn't go in there. That would work, I think. See all the concrete that's in there right now? That's going to be a real difficult situation later. Yeah, sandwich some foam in there, then you have that leeway to knock those forms out later, and the concrete's not going to get in between. I think that's the answer. You don't want to make it solid wood because you can't get them out with that either, so you need foam in there. Wood stakes and then slip some foam in. Bingo. This is the top of where the fence is going to go on the property line. Actually, this is going to be completely built on the homeowner's property because we left the existing retaining that was on the neighbor's property. So we got like a double wall here back to back. Here's the 4x4 post straps going in. They're going to have pressure treated 4x4s and then horizontal redwood 1x6s, 3 foot high. These areas that are boxed out and formed about 8-inch band around that inside of the driveway and the walkway, that's going to get your round rock, black like river rock. It's going to go in all those spaces. Then you've got your artificial turf going in there. So we have the water shortage, artificial turf, and native plants, water tolerant stuff. Those are going to go big right now. Things that don't take a lot of water. And this is the second pass on the bowl float. That's the time when you can really find out where the holes are. And as you're bowl floating, you can sprinkle back where needed on your second pass. And then they've ran the Fresno behind the bowl float. Now they're down to a funny trowel. This is all going to get just a broom finish, non-slip broom texture. Inside of that face of that retaining will get stripped and then troweled. The spacing on those stirrups are going to be about 6 feet. Stripped and faced. They're going to go ahead and saw cut some joints in this curb the next day. Here's a floating step. See, they can't strip that bottom board out from underneath that cantilever yet because if they strip it early, it'll just crack off and fall. So that's going to be sitting there for a while until it gets firm enough where we can pull that 2x4 out from underneath there. So you got to have real good timing on this. So that's known as a cantilever step or floating. It's a good place because you have all that recess. It's a good place to hide some recessed lighting, indirect lighting under there. So that goes up under there about a good 2 inches. It gives the illusion when you're walking up there that it's a floating step. So fortunately, they had just enough guys out here to keep up with this. Yeah, when I heard about the trouble that he had removing these forms, it took him a couple days to get them all out, and he used a jackhammer to remove them. I was thinking, well, I was telling him, well, why didn't you just pour the whole thing solid? You know, save you some money on the lumber and just saw cut out the areas you want to put the cobble in. And then you would have saved all the money because you had a jackhammer anyway. But so that's always an option to think about. The only difference is you wouldn't have a radius edge with a saw. You could 45 it with a crack chaser, no problem. So there's an option there. If you ever had an existing driveway, for instance, that's done quite often. Just saw cut, put some brick in there, put cob, whatever you want, astroturf, artificial turf. There it is, 100% nylon broom. And that's the green bristles, so that's a medium texture. The black is the coarse, and then the white is the finest.
You gotta bring them with you. Yeah, sometimes they're busy on their own, you know.
Here's the brooming, and that's 100% nylon broom.
Broom finish.
So it looks like they just grabbed the water bottle, poked some holes in the top of it to use as a spray bottle where the concrete's getting a little hard. Luckily, they had enough guys out here to actually keep up with this, because when you have that many edges, you need a lot of guys, especially when it all goes off at once on you. So that's the spacing in between the driveway bands are going to be about almost 5 inches, about 4 3/4, actually almost 4 inches. So you got two 2x4s and then a wood stake, so 3 3/4. The cantilever was the last to go off. That was in the shaded area. Plus they had to wait, just give it enough time to be able to hold itself up. Here's your finished product. Turned out real nice. We're gonna start showing the stripping real shortly here. This is the finished day of the pour. Yep, so it looks real nice. Right here you're going to get cobble on the outside of this walkway. Both sides of it will get the black cobble. And then you get the jump right into the artificial turf. We're going to have low voltage lighting all the way around. We're going to have drip irrigation. Here's a nice overhead shot from the drone. Okay, this is the next day, and they're gonna saw cut this retaining wall. Other than that, you don't need to put any joints anywhere else other than this wall. And there's some nice clean saw cuts. Here's strip day. They haven't really at this point realized what they're gonna run into on the removal. But as they get into it, you'll start seeing the big equipment come out. So far, I've seen a Sawzall, a reciprocating saw, come out. Now we've got a diamond blade coming out, cutting in between the slats, the 2x4s. And we're going to get into a few more pieces of equipment before this is over. You can see that the wood's already splitting. These are only like a 5-foot span right here, so, and the driveway's much longer, so, and those 2x4s are much longer. That's going to be a little more challenging.
Alright, so here we are the day after the pour. Me and my guy over there, Shane, are trying to get all the forms out, but man, are we struggling. Oh man, it's taking way too long. I knew I should have done 5-inch gaps instead of 4-inch, because 4-inch leaves no wiggle room whatsoever. I've been beating these 2x4s up like crazy trying to get them out. What I should have done was I probably should have taped right between this tiny little joint right here, so that no concrete could have got down in between them, so I could have just cut my screws from the stakes, took them out a lot easier. But live and learn. So me and Shane are trying to come up with as many techniques as we can to get these out. You can see how wedged in these are, and I'll tell you what, this is a nightmare. Nightmare. How's your lower back feeling, Shane?
Whew. Feels like a huge knot tied up on my back, like a bow tie.
It's like we're at the gym doing deadlifts all day, huh?
Yeah.
But we don't know the weight because we don't know how tight these are squeezed together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna spend all day taking these forms out. It's already about 11 o'clock. We started at 7 a.m. I mean, we got the sides out easy. All the sides, no problem. But in between joints, this is tough work, especially because we don't want to chip the concrete. So we're going slow, steady, but with strength at the same time. Ah. Hey, what though? Pour came out good. Got a little cantilever floating step right there.
But this removal process, it was a two-day event. We got the pickaxe coming in here, and it's getting it, you know, a little bit here and there, getting pieces of it out. You're making good firewood, basically. So this is still day 1 because there's no jackhammer yet. I think day 2 is when the jackhammer comes out. They had to jackhammer the lumber out of there. That pry bar is really taking a beating. It's kind of looks like a S shape now, or a nail bar. So if you ever do these with forms this close together, it's probably better to actually space them a little bit more so you can get some kind of a tool in there to clean it out while the concrete's wet. Like a margin trowel is a good tool to get in between the wood with. You can get really narrow ones, but even at that, at the way it's set up right now, it's just too narrow to get anything in there. Well, that jackhammer made short work of it. That was the trick. Make sure you stay tuned for the next part of this particular series. That's going to be the kind of the nice part of kind of getting a view of the whole package with the rock in there, artificial turf, the redwood fencing. Anyway, see you on the next video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Have a good one.